The air in the courtroom hung thick and heavy, a silence so profound it seemed to choke on its own stillness. "Get up when I'm speaking to you, boy." The white officer's voice cut through the stillness like a jagged shard of glass, sharp and ugly. The stenographer froze, their fingers poised over the keys. The black man in the mustard-yellow suit didn't flinch. His arms were folded, his gaze unwavering, his calm presence a quiet fortress against the assault. Judge Carlyle looked up but said nothing, his pale face a blank canvas betraying no reaction. The insult, a venomous echo, seemed to pass right through him. Sheriff Cridge, his name tag glinting, stepped forward, his face a furious red. "He assaulted me," the officer, Dempsey, declared, his voice still ragged with indignation. "I stopped this man for reckless driving. He resisted, tried to flee. I sustained injuries." The prosecutor, a slick figure in a dark suit, rose. "No reports, no video, only his word," the prosecutor noted, his eyes narrowing at the man in yellow. "And you're certain this is the man? I never forget the face of a thug." Dempsey's words, a hammer blow of contempt, slammed against the stand. A collective gasp rippled through the gallery. Judge Carlyle tapped his gavel, a weak, perfunctory sound, without a word of reprimand. "Mr. Benjamin Six, you may respond." Benjamin leaned into the microphone, his voice a soft, commanding whisper. "Am I to respond to the fabricated charges or the racial slurs?" A murmur spread through the room. "You are to respond to the sworn testimony," the judge said, his tone flat. Benjamin tilted his head, a hint of a smile playing on his lips. "Interesting. Allow me a question." "You're not an attorney," the prosecutor barked. "I know," Benjamin said, his voice still gentle. "But since the officer seems emotionally compromised, I asked for clarity." The judge hesitated, then nodded. "Proceed briefly." For the first time, Benjamin rose. He locked eyes with Officer Dempsey, his calm presence a stark and powerful contrast to the officer's simmering fury. "You claim I was driving recklessly," Benjamin began. "That's right," Dempsey snapped. "You were swerving, clearly drunk." "No test performed," Benjamin noted, his voice a quiet counterpoint. "No dash cam footage. No backup officer." He turned to the gallery, his gaze sweeping over the silent faces. Yet he found time to file a pristine incident report and somehow forgot he's under internal investigation for falsifying records. The courtroom froze. "What investigation?" the prosecutor demanded, his voice thin with panic. Benjamin produced a manila envelope. "This sealed audit shows Dempsey's unit has 37% more resistance cases involving black drivers than any other in the county." "Objection!" the prosecutor shouted. "Sit down," the judge muttered, his voice barely a whisper. Benjamin placed the envelope on the table. "I sat silent while insulted. But no one has asked me who I am, why I wear this suit today." He drew out another envelope, his hand steady. "Tommy knew who you were really yelling at." Judge Carlyle leaned forward, a flicker of something new, fear, maybe, in his eyes. "What is that document?" Benjamin broke the seal. Inside was a letter with the Department of Justice seal. His voice was steady as he read from the document. "This is my certified appointment as Chief Justice of the State Supreme Court. Effective as of last week." The room inhaled as one. The judge blinked. The prosecutor paled. Dempsey's rage curdled into a sickly mix of disbelief and dread. "I was tasked with a covert review of courtroom bias," Benjamin said. "No titles, no cameras, just silence." He turned to Judge Carlyle. "You were one of my subjects. This violates." The judge stammered. "No," Benjamin cut in, his voice now a low, resonant rumble. "What violates justice is your silence when I was called boy. You failed your robe and your oath." A gasp spread through the gallery. The bailiff called for order, but no one listened. The authority in the room now rested in the mustard suit. Benjamin faced Dempsey. "You lied under oath." I didn't," the officer stammered. "You assumed," Benjamin said, his voice cold. "You saw a black man in a nice suit and thought, 'Target.' You forgot to do your homework. I clerked for federal judges, drafted policy on racial profiling, and now I hold your record in my hands." He tossed a file across the prosecutor's table. "Complaints, broken body cams, misconduct reports. I did my homework, too." The judge rose, trembling. "You have no authority." Benjamin stepped closer to the bench. "At midnight, my appointment took effect. As my first act, I open a federal investigation into this precinct and this courtroom for systemic racism and corruption." The officer's knees weakened. Two federal agents entered the room quietly, handing a drive and a thick envelope to Benjamin. He raised the USB. "This audit covers 7 years of Dempsey's activities. 27 complaints from black citizens, all dismissed. It shows GPS logs of dashcams, malfunctioning body cams, and patterns too precise to ignore." "This is a smear," Dempsey shouted, his voice cracking. "This is accountability." Benjamin plugged in the drive. A spreadsheet filled the screen. One line was highlighted: Rosa stops. June 14, 2022. Traffic stop. Use of force. Name: Franklin Lee Monroe. Deceased. A gasp from the gallery. An elderly woman clutched her chest. Benjamin's voice darkened. "Stopped for a tail light. Died from exhaustion, but GPS shows your car parked off-route. No footage, no backup, just silence." The judge muttered, "Overruled." The prosecutor flailed, his composure completely gone. Benjamin stepped closer to Dempsey, the full weight of his presence bearing down on the officer. "You thought that badge made you untouchable and this bench would protect you. 4 years you were right. Until today." The judge's hands shook. Benjamin's voice rose, filling the chamber. "Every conviction tied to you will be reopened. Every silence re-examined. Justice will not be delayed." Dempsey collapsed into his chair, his hands trembling. Benjamin's final words fell like a hammer blow. "Justice delayed is still justice. And it has finally caught you." But he wasn't done. He lifted 2 more files. "Before this court, I submit 2 final exhibits. An anonymous tip from one of your fellow officers and a sworn affidavit from a retired lieutenant, forced out for trying to expose your crimes." The courtroom inhaled again, on the brink of eruption. The truth had only begun to surface. The bailiff handed the affidavit to Judge Carlisle, whose hands shook as he read the damning words aloud. "I was told by Judge Leonard Carlisle to clear Officer Dempsey's misconduct report," he said. "We protect our own." Gasps erupted. The prosecutor froze. Officer Dempsey's face drained of color. Benjamin stepped forward. "You didn't just ignore racism. You buried it. You protected it. And you called it justice." The doors burst open. U.S. Marshals entered. One handed Carlisle an order. His face collapsed. "I recuse myself," he stammered, ripping off his robe before stumbling out in disgrace. Benjamin turned to the gallery. "This is no personal victory. Justice must be reforged when broken." A marshal stepped toward Dempsey. "Officer Brandon Dempsey, you are under arrest for falsifying reports, obstruction, perjury, and civil rights violations." The cuffs clicked. Dempsey was dragged out, no longer feared, only broken. A profound silence followed. Benjamin did not smile. He approached the bench, pausing before lowering himself into the seat. The bailiff's voice rang out, clear and strong. "All rise for the Chief Justice of the State Supreme Court." Kamola, August 19, 2025, 1913. News of the courtroom scandal spread instantly, going viral. The judge exposed, the officer arrested. But Benjamin pressed forward. His first order: every conviction tied to Dempsey would be re-examined. Every buried truth uncovered. He turned to the prosecutor. "You will cooperate. If negligence is found, your office will answer for it." The man nodded, sweat dripping down his face. Benjamin faced the families in the gallery. "To those wronged, the court failed you. I failed you. That ends today." Tears flowed as mothers and fathers finally heard what they had long known. "You were right," he rose, his voice firm. "Racism behind robes and badges is the deadliest weapon. Today we broke it." Reporters whispered, "This is a revolution." Benjamin descended, walking not toward the cameras, but the people. A boy in the front row stared at him wide-eyed. Benjamin knelt. "What's your name?" "Turl." "Turl, remember this," Benjamin said, his voice soft. "Power isn't the robe or the badge. It's truth, and truth lasts." He rose and disappeared into the press swarm. "Today is not about me," he declared. "It is about justice." Weeks later, the courtroom stood empty. A new nameplate gleamed on the bench. The Honorable Benjamin Six, Chief Justice. Beneath it, a plaque read, "Justice is not blind. It sees."